Hello friends, welcome back to Make It Work Monday. We we're not going to talk so much today about accessibility. I'm sorry, I'm giggling because I've already done this, but there was all sorts of noise in the background, so I've taken myself outside and figure I'll do it here. Hopefully we won't have as many interruptions, but we'll see. Life is full of them at this house. So I wanted to kind of change directions just a little bit, and this isn't going to be every week, but I really felt a tug on my heart to share about what to do when you've gotten a diagnosis. So maybe this is at the 20-week ultrasound when you're so excited to finally see your baby, find out if it's a boy or girl, or just to see a healthy baby, but the doctor comes in and says there's something wrong. Or maybe it's that you've gotten a blood test back very early in pregnancy and you hear there's something wrong. Maybe it's post-birth with a traumatic injury or traumatic birth or a premature situation, which is what our case is. Maybe it's in toddlerhood when they have a traumatic brain injury or something causes something to change irreparably. So whatever the reason or however you find out, you're now faced with a child that has something life-altering that they will deal with for the rest of their lives and that you will likely deal with for the rest of yours. And so there are so many emotions, and whether it's something small, like, I don't know, there are many different things, and I guess small is kind of relative as well, but whether it's something that is overcomable or whether it's something that's not, it's still an adjustment, and there is a period and a time of grief as well. So I welcome you to join our discussion and just to look at this, please. If you are facing a diagnosis for the first time, there have been many things I've learned, but one of them that just grows with time is to trust in God and to know that He has the end result already in his heart, in His mind, in His plan, and that I can trust in His goodness whether it looks like it's good or not. So if you are facing a diagnosis for the first time, please reach out to me by the comments below. If you're not comfortable reaching out with the comments below, please let me know and I'll find a way to get a hold of you. This is a time when somebody else that's faced that diagnosis or a similar one is really a great resource and someone that you might want to reach out to during the next couple of weeks or months. I had a very good friend that has a son with cerebral palsy that walked with me through a lot, that invited me into her home to cry and pray and talk, that also spent time with me in the hospital waiting for a surgery to be finished, that just was a precious resource and is a precious resource, and really someone that I don't have to explain very much to because she already understands. So if you don't have someone like that in your life, please let me know. I understand how lonely it can be. I understand how difficult and how hard and traumatic it can be to get the news that you get when you get it. So I'll give a little bit of background for us and then chat with things that helped me right in the immediate, but also as I've walked this journey. And the number one thing I just spoke about was just a friend that's been there before, that will hold space, that will listen, that will validate the emotions that you're having, that won't make you feel guilty for having them, and that will also give practical tips and tricks that they've used and just be a listening ear and someone to advise in situations that you're facing. So when we found out that we were pregnant with twins, we had 5 children under the age of 10. So I'm going to try to add some family pictures throughout. I think this will be kind of nice for me. Even if nobody else watches this, it'll be nice for me to have the pictures. So I'm going to search through and add pictures throughout. So we had 5 children, 10 and under. And we had joked right before I left for the ultrasound that we had one more seat in our van and we wouldn't have to get another one. We had perfect amount of space. So I jokingly said to Mike that, oh, well, what if it's twins? And then had to call him about 20 minutes from then saying, yep, it is twins. So we had kind of a crazy pregnancy. I had hoped to be close to home. They had just built a nice medical building close to our house. And then when I went for that ultrasound, they said, nope, you're going to have to be seen by maternal fetal medicine. So you will not be able to come here. You're going to have to go 45 minutes away to their office. So it was kind of like, well, I switched for no reason. But anyway, fast forward to their delivery. It was the night before my daughter's 2nd birthday. She's now 7. And I was having signs of labor. I had had some prodromal labor with the 2 children before them. So with that information and also the fact that I really wanted to be home for my daughter's 2nd birthday, I did not go in. And so the next morning, I was waking up, I was trying to get things together for her birthday, and it quickly became apparent that things weren't letting up. So I told Mike, I said, I'm going to get in the shower. That has helped in the past. I'm going to see if it fixes it, and obviously if it doesn't, then this is for real and we need to go in. And so it took about 2 minutes in the shower for me to say, nope, I had to sit down, we had to go. So we got to the hospital. We literally dropped our older children with some friends that we had contacted on the way that picked them up, whisked them away. Mike got to the hospital right in time for them to be born. They were born fairly quickly after. Asher came, and then 6 minutes later, Jonah came. And they were born very prematurely. They were born at 31 weeks and 4 days. That in the premature world is actually a little bit older, but they were still premature. And in Pennsylvania, there is a law that if a baby is born before 32 weeks, they will do a head ultrasound at 1 week and 1 month. So they informed us of that. They said, we don't anticipate anything being wrong. However, Asher, when he was born septically infected. So they said with that, there can be some more complications. So we had understood that. We were already kind of into a routine of going back and forth to the hospital. We still had 5 other children. I kept a pretty strict routine then because that kept me sane. So we would school in the morning, I would have lunch, and at this point Mike still had off, so I could drive in the afternoon to go see them and come back in time for dinner. So that was kind of our schedule, but Mike really wanted to go and see them. And from talking to neonatologists and the nurses there, I understood that really the most important time for me to be there was when they were 34 weeks and above, so that we could work on nursing together. And so his mom had asked to go visit them, and he had really wanted a chance to go. And I said, why don't you go with your mom, and then I will go tomorrow. So it was the first day that I wasn't planning on going to the hospital, and really the only day after that all was said and done that I missed visiting the twins. So, except I didn't. When they got there, the doctors and nurses informed them of the head ultrasound and that it showed bleeding. And not only bleeding, but something called PVL. And that PVL, from their research and understanding and statistics for many, many years of working in neonatology, showed them that there is a possibility that that child will develop cerebral palsy. So they came home, they let me know, and Mike, from looking at me, said, "You go ahead in. I know you want to." So I went in, and they were able to tell me, and I will never forget the precious nurse that sat beside me in a rocking chair and rocked one baby while I rocked the other, and cried and answered my questions and listened and was present and took time out of her busy evening, I'm sure, of taking care of many little babies, and just sat with me, sat with this grieving mama, and rocked. And that was a precious moment to me, and I will never forget her or her kindness to me. But on the way there, I was crying out to God. I was explaining to him, as if he didn't already know, our very full schedule with 5 children, 10 and under, homeschooling, trying to keep up with the house. Just felt like I was always behind even then. How in the world would I have time for therapy appointments, for specialists, for figuring out everything that he needed? And God gave me a song called More Than Anything by Natalie Grant, and I will try and link that below as well. It came on the radio as I was praying and crying, and it was the most beautiful and perfect song for the moment. And one of the lines that I will always remember, and is the way that I can find the name of the song again, because titles sometimes escape me, is "Help me want the healer more than the healing." And so that kind of fell on me. And then God spoke to me about John 10:10. "I am the vine, you are branches. If a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you are nothing." So that helped me to refocus that this wasn't up to me to figure out. I couldn't schedule my way around it. I couldn't write in all of the things, do the formula that made it work the best. That I needed to trust in the vine and remain in him. And remember that there is nothing in my own power I can do apart from him. And so in that was the blessing and the gift that is continuing to reap in my life, this understanding that there is nothing I can control, that all is in his hands, and that I can remain in him. So when I start to feel frantic, that verse is a lifeboat for me. And I don't do this perfectly. You can ask my children. They will tell you mama loses it more than she should. But I do know that he is with me, and that if I can remember to remain in him, that he will bear much fruit, regardless of how insane things feel. So that would be the second thing I'd encourage you with, and maybe the most important thing I say. If God brings you to it, he will walk with you through it. Not God won't give you more than you can handle. We can't handle it. We can't, he can. That's the message of the gospel. But that if he brings us to it, he will walk with us. Still having interruptions. Barbecue and mustard on hamburgers, way more than they need to be doing. Okay, anyway. So that is something that I feel is gospel-based, as opposed to God won't give you any more than you can handle. We aren't supposed to handle it all in this broken world. So anyway, so yeah, then I was able to kind of walk in there with that piece, and I can come back to that. This is a wonderful thing for me as well, to kind of remember that's where my eyes should be fixed. That's where my focus should be. that that's the truth when the lies want to prevail. So the other thing that I'd like to talk about is that it's okay to grieve and have the small silent griefs throughout. This isn't a once and done thing. You kind of come up, and I know for the big grief when you're losing someone, there are points. I've spoken to a sweet dear friend of mine about it being like waves, where sometimes it's just a little bit and sometimes it knocks you over and pulls you out, pulls your feet out from underneath of you. This is one of the smaller griefs, but there are still points in time, especially developmentally with a child, where you realize he's getting frustrated, he's not able to do the same thing as his peers, fill in the blank. So I can tell you about 2 times that really stick out for me as Asher has grown. One time very vividly was the Easter after he had turned 1. We were heavy into early intervention. He was in occupational therapy and physical therapy 2 times a week, and his occupational therapist was an angel for me. She was just so precious. She walked me through it. She held my hand. She worked with me, and she just let me cry when I needed to. And so he had been a part of an Easter egg hunt and realized he could not get to the eggs as quickly as his twin brother. And he just put his head down and cried. And even now, thinking about that, the picture is so vivid. It broke me as a parent. And so I shared that with her, and she let me cry for some time and just held space for me to work through that. And then after I was finished, we kind of came up with some solutions so that he could interact with his environment independently. And that was a precious gift as well. So just to take the time to feel the feelings, to feel the grief, and then to work on what can we do to accommodate? What can we do to help him to independently interact with his environment? And I knew that wouldn't be the last time that he felt that frustration or felt that pain. And that can just cut like a knife. So that's one time I vividly remember. And then also just as he got older, in dealing with playgrounds and accessibility, and the fact that he just really wasn't able to do it without getting mulch all over and getting kind of scratched up, or just do what he wanted to do as quickly as he wanted to do it. So we've been on this journey of how can we facilitate more independence, right? And I feel like that's a journey a lot of moms and dads of kids with special needs have. We want them to independently interact with their environment. We want them to have joy and fulfillment and purpose. And how does that look with the limitations that they currently have? So I would encourage you to feel the grief, to acknowledge it, not to bury it, to take the time that you need to process it, whether that be with a friend or just some quiet time with some music playing, but also to spend some time thinking about how that would work. And I'd be happy to also join you in the comments below about some ideas that we've had. And again, I'm going to be making this a regular thing every week. We're going to be discussing some adaptations, some accessibility things, and I'd sprinkle them throughout as well as we work with word work. And I learn, okay, this isn't working for him. What can I do differently? So there are some things that I'm able to quickly switch, and there are some things where I really need the time to process. And there are a lot of people here, so it doesn't always happen the way that you would typically think of it happening. It's usually in pockets of time, in the shower, at night, late at night when everybody's asleep and things are finished, when I'm able to think in the car a lot of times when I'm driving someone somewhere and they've fallen asleep. But to take that time, and when they come up, to deal with them, to let them be felt. So that would be another thought I have as you begin to grapple with what this means. And then I would also just encourage you to find community. I know that's very similar to the find somebody that knows, but find community, even if it's people that haven't experienced this before, to just have a community where you feel safe and you can share. And if you don't have that, again, please let me know. This isn't just for me to build and grow. We're having a condiment situation still. Anyway, I would encourage you to find that community and to share honestly, because chances are, even if they're not facing the same obstacle, that will encourage them, and that feeling of I am not alone and feeling like I don't have everything together, I am not alone and feeling like I cannot do this, that is enough of an encouragement to others and to yourself to keep going. So again, if you don't have that, if you need someone to talk to, need someone to talk this through with, please reach out. As I said, I've been there. It can be so lonely and it can be so difficult as you walk through it and work through it little by little. But I would love to be a person that can both hold space and give some suggestions if wanted. Gentle suggestions if wanted. So I hope you have a wonderful week, and thank you for letting me share my story. Goodbye, friends.